You ever stop and think about how a place goes from being, completely overlooked to basically the center of the world? Well, we're going to dive into the incredible story of Washington, D.C., a city that started out as an idea that, get this, almost nobody even wanted. I mean, just look at this contrast. On the one hand, you have its origin story, a literal swamp, a piece of land that was seen as pretty undesirable. On the other hand, you have what it is today, one of the most influential and powerful cities in all of human history. The difference is just staggering.
So, the big question is, how? How in the world does that transformation happen? How does a malarial marsh become the capital of a global superpower? That's the story we're going to break down right here.
Okay, so our story starts way back at the beginning. You've got this brand new nation trying to figure out, all right, where are we going to put our capital? And the choice they made was, well, let's just say it was pretty unconventional. I mean, if you were making a list of reasons not to build a major city somewhere, this place would check all the boxes. We're talking humid, marshy land, a perfect breeding ground for diseases like malaria. It's no wonder nobody had really built any major settlements there. But that last point, that's the real key here. It belonged to no state. And this is where the political genius comes in. The fact that nobody wanted it was actually its greatest strength. See, by choosing land that no single state could lay claim to, George Washington completely sidestepped a massive political fight. The idea was that the capital would belong to everyone, and because of that, it belonged to no one in particular. It was neutral ground. But, picking a location is one thing. Actually building a city is a whole different ballgame. The founders had this magnificent dream, but the reality of bringing it to life was a messy, difficult, and frankly, muddy struggle. So on one side, you have the incredible vision from the planner, Pierre-Charles L'Enfant. He was imagining a new Rome, a city of grand avenues and massive beautiful monuments. But on the other side, you have the grim reality. The place was plagued by constant floods. The roads were literally just mud pits, and the main government buildings just stood there like skeletons, half-finished for years. It actually became a running joke among the early politicians. They gave it a nickname that stuck, the City of Mud. And trust me, this wasn't a term of endearment. It was a serious knock against the capital, making it seem less like the heart of a new nation and more like a failed construction project. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get any worse, they did. The city faced a moment that nearly erased it from existence. This was its ultimate test. So it's 1814. The U.S. is at war with Great Britain, and the unthinkable happens. British troops march into the city, and they burn it down. They set fire to the Capitol building, the White House. It was a complete national humiliation. The city of mud was now a city of ashes, and a lot of people were convinced the whole experiment was over. But then came the most critical decision in the city's entire history. Instead of just cutting their losses and moving the capital somewhere else, the nation doubled down. Rebuilding wasn't just about construction. It was a powerful statement. It was a defiant symbol of national resilience. It was the country declaring that this city and the American experiment it represented was here to stay. So for the next century, Washington grew steadily, but it was the massive global conflicts of the 20th century that would truly catapult it from just a national capital into a global powerhouse. You can kind of think of it in stages. First, the World Wars turned the city into the planet's military command center. Then, the Cold War makes it the undisputed diplomatic capital of the world, the center of a global chess match. And all along, the growth of these massive federal agencies cements its role as the place where decisions affecting the entire globe were being made every single day. And this right here is a fundamental shift. Washington went from being just a symbol of American power to being the very engine of it. Its influence was no longer just an idea, it was direct, and it was felt in every single corner of the globe. Which brings us to today. The city's transformation is, without a doubt, incredible. But its story is far from over. In fact, its future is being defined by a series of really profound and challenging questions. And this gets us to the central paradox of modern DC. Here you have a city that wields immense global influence, but its own citizens don't have a voting representative in the very Congress that sits right there in their city. So, of course, this leads to the most prominent political question the city is facing today. Will the District of Columbia ever become the 51st state and finally grant its residents the full representation they've been seeking? And kind of ironically, its swampy origins are coming back to haunt it. With rising sea levels and more extreme weather, you have to wonder, Is the capital city, built on a marsh, truly prepared for the environmental challenges of the future? And finally, in a world where so much of governance, diplomacy, and power happens online, what does it even mean to be a physical capital? How does a city like Washington adapt its role for a digital age? So when you look back, from a patch of mud nobody wanted, to a symbol of resilience, to the center of global power, the story of Washington, D.C. is just a remarkable testament to reinvention. And as all these questions show, its most consequential chapters might just be the ones that are yet to come.